Question. We'll bring the meeting to order of Planning and Zoning Committee. We have. I believe we have minutes.
You actually don't see it. They'll be ready for the next.
Okay, I was gonna say, I must try to bring my copy, and now I understand why. All right, then, first new business is election of officers. I guess we do periodically, but in this case, we have a vacancy as the chairman, so, I guess the question is, how do we want to do it, since we're somewhat light on numbers?
Recommend that we would see.
Yeah, I agree too.
All right, in favor of that, so, yeah. We'll try to do it on a meeting when everyone's there. I believe that's what we tried to do the other, at a previous time, a couple of years ago, we tried to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, well, not a problem, right? Tabling that.
No, it's all right.
Okay, all right. Item B is the amended site development, pharmaceuticals. No, Andrews.
So the applicant is requesting to amend the previously approved site plan for 122-1 type court to include a two-story addition that would be 32,000 feet. It is a two-story, so it's the footprint is 16,000. So just wanted to give you an idea of where the property is. This is, in your staff report if it's easier for you to take a look there or whichever, but so it's right along Tech Road and Old Blackman Valley.
And when you say previously approved, you mean from years?
Yes.
Years.
Yes, years and years ago.
That's the heading on the.
Yeah, so there's some things that we are going to reference the previously approved plan. The first plan for this did take into account the addition. So there's some things that we're going to talk about that are for both. And then there's some things I'm going to talk about that are strictly for this addition. So I know that this, depending on where you're looking at it from, if someone's watching it, it might look pretty big to them, but if it's easier for you to look, this is all in the back of your plans. So here's our final site plan, our final landscaping plan. In your document, you'll also see that there were some landscaping modifications that were requested. And we included also a red line edition of the plan that would show you what those requests were, as well as the letter and how that would impact everything. That's one of the things that are going through with the zoning administrator. So that's nothing that we're going to be really talking about this evening, but just wanted to bring you up to speed and to let you know that that is something that has been requested and also it's been discussed. This here is our the addition on this side. So we've come a long way with our relationship with the developer, or the architect and the engineer in discussions about from the original proposed elevations. And so with this, we feel that this does meet more of our design guidelines and preferences. This here would continue this brick look in the front or stone look in the front with the windows and kind of do a little bit of a pitched roof, and it does allow with the more windows, more light to come in. So that was some of the things that we had talked about in our meeting with the applicant that we were hoping to accomplish. So just to show you, I'm sorry, I don't know why. There. So this here is the north elevation. So it will be on this side of the property. And the reason why this west side is was the most important to us as far as how we were going to compromise is because this is what people see from the street. So we wanted to make sure that if we were going to do a continuation of this, and the compromise was to do it on the west elevation. Sorry, I don't know what just happened with that. Okay. So we do have primarily two outstanding issues that are still. So the parking, when the parking was calculated for the original development plan, it was only taking into account that the uses that were inside the building was just manufacturing. In the existing building, which is 32,000 square feet, there is office, warehouse, laboratories, and manufacturing. So the parking that was tabulated for just the manufacturing for both the addition and the existing building, that met what was currently in the existing building. It does not necessarily meet all of the requirements for what is required with the addition. The addition is not just manufacturing, it's also offices and laboratories. So by doing the calculations based off of the code, they are 6 parking spaces short. However, we would like to continue to have conversations with them because there is a possibility that through our ordinance that there could be some double counting of parking spaces and requirements. For instance, somebody working in the offices could also be someone who is working in the laboratories or, somewhere else in the building. So we're unsure at this time if those 6 parking spaces are actually short or not. But that there's always the option, if it does happen that these are not overlapping parking spaces, for us to talk about an administrative adjustment request for those 6 parking spaces. Also, a water and sewer allocation application has to be finalized, and the application for the fee for the project needs to be paid. On page 6 of your staff report, I broke down all the water calculations. I don't have to go into it because I know it's a lot of stuff there, but it talks about the uses that are in the current space and how much water they're using by use, as well as using that to talk about how much water they're going to need for the addition. So they'll need 1,661 gallons, and that's going to be what is required. So tonight we're here asking you to approve this conditionally with number 1, that they continue to work with our staff to address the parking issue. However, it is that we do come to a compromise or a solution. Also to finalize the water and sewer allocation application and to pay the required fees, as well as to address all remaining outstanding city and county comments. And I'm obviously here to answer any questions, and there's also representatives for the project as well.
All right. Want to make any comments from the?
I think we're just here to, request approval and answer any questions.
Right. Okay. Any questions or comments? No. Seems pretty cut and dry, as long as you just have your issues to work out.
Yeah, and we feel that we will be able to. So.
Is the water 1,000 extra gallons?
Yes.
Per day?
Yes. So currently they use about 2,600 gallons per day, and so this is an additional.
And that shouldn't be an issue.
No, it's an industrial use, also an existing building that's in the city. So commercial industrial is where we always put our focus on water priorities. So.
I make a motion for conditional approval of a proposed amendment site development plan S20-27.
All right, with all the conditions
With all the
that were previously discussed. Okay.
Second.
All right, so moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Good night.
You're going and the rest of the night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, 31.
I live in Hale.
All right, I'm sitting.
Good evening. Couple things, so we got over here. The fall amendment has now been sent off to the Maryland Department for Environment for their final approval. That was sent out last week or 2 weeks ago on the 8th. Have not heard back anything yet. Obviously, there were changes from the Westminster chapter, which they told Andy about. So those were forwarded with the packet. So I don't see any, unless something pops up I don't know about, anything that should be out of the ordinary. We are finalizing the triennial update that is going on slowly but surely. And hopefully I'll be in front of this planning commission probably either March or April for your certification of consistency with the master plan of their chapters. So I'll send those up to Andrea first to make sure everything looks good map wise as well as chapter wise. The updated chapter That's part of the fall amendment. Well, all it is obviously gonna roll right over into the triennial. To my knowledge, there's no changes to the sewer side of things.
There's gonna be, future projects, and that's the only table I think that'll change to the triennial.
So we'll add that, and I hope, like I said, hopefully about April, late March, early April, we'll have that in front of you for your certification of consistency. The transportation master plan, that is still ongoing. And during our February and March, there'll be review. All the reviews that our plan commission will go review the plan major streets, including the ones that were presented to staff, all county staff or town staffs last year. To make sure that we are still on track of what we have in there. The annual report, I believe, Tiffany told me she talked with you earlier today about getting that finalized for the city. That's a report that is needed by the state, but the county does on behalf of all the towns to make it a little bit easier. So some places don't have the staffing to work on that, so we do it for all the towns. And the hazard mitigation plan, that is still ongoing. We've had talks with with FEMA. That came back in, I believe, Vicky said she talked with Mark back in January. And there was a meeting in middle of January that county staff had with FEMA about some of the tables of questions they had that we're moving forward. And their status quo, and I believe Tiffany said she sent you a template of sort of what another town has done that, from our understanding, suffices for what FEMA's looking for. Hopefully, when we send all the revisions off, we won't hear back from them saying, we don't want this, even though we've requested to make sure we're on the same page. And then lastly, was the economic development land use study, which was this evening before planning commission meeting. And I'm not involved in that as much. I believe Mark said he was there. If he has anything he wants to present to the commission about what the county's looking to do, it's the overall county economic development, because we are in the process of updating our comprehensive plan. So this is the very beginning stage to look at the county as a whole, including all of municipalities, to see, bring everybody together, what is best for this county moving forward. And then we're looking to do our full-blown, get into the weeds, hopefully by 2024, we'll start the actual comp plan and have it done by 25.
With that, there's always a little confusion on that, whether that includes, the city has its own, but they always have the environments between the city and the county that always gets
Yeah,
lost in the weeds. Well, I'm just curious if it's gonna get a little cheap. I think it's been lost for 15, 20 years.
each state is different. I'm originally from North Carolina, and the areas they have outside the cities, we call our ETJs, or extra territorial jurisdictions, where the actual city's zoning supersedes, even though those areas are in the county, city zoning, because that's what they're looking to annex in one day, is what developers go after. So, but here, we're hoping to update everything and look at the areas that may be growing, and there's some areas that may be.
But it is a transitional area.
It is, exactly. And yeah, sometimes these areas they go a different route than what the comp plans show, and it just takes time for those areas to catch up when it comes to the actual land use on the ground versus what
Oh, yeah,
the comp plans say.
yeah. But if you don't designate it, then you get trouble with it. Well, that's what I was wondering. Anytime we talked about it, well, it's not really the county's responsibility, and the city said, well, we're not really We got enough trouble just getting our own done.
Well, the municipal growth element kind of changed that just a little bit. We no longer do, you're right, the environs plan itself hasn't been updated in quite some time, but that municipal growth element required us to then work hand in hand with the county to discuss land use for those pieces, you know, that are in our future growth area.
And I would think the city would want to be more in control of it, if it makes sense, but that's have time to do it.
Well, it's kind
Pretty
of,
good.
yeah, it's kind of a balance because the city provides all the water and sewer. So while they don't control zoning, they kind of control density in a sense where they draw the line. So it's a, you know, balancing act.
It's definitely a unique situation, for sure.
But I would see us being more involved as to those properties in the county within the growth area that are they comp planned correctly for our growth? Particularly if we move forward the wastewater program, we start getting actual water. And that could lead to additional development. I do see the possibility of further annexations, you know, in the next 5-10 years. And we want to make sure we're planning for that.
Also, next month, you guys are gonna get before you the annual report, our additions to annual report. And we'll ask you for essentially a certification letter that will need to be signed at that meeting, but I'll send it out prior to the meeting so you can take a look, but it wasn't ready totally ready for tonight's meeting, and so I didn't want to give you something that wasn't complete for you to look at. But that letter of consistency will be required to the county, I believe actually the next day of our meeting, you know, after our meeting. So if there's any outstanding issues, I'm sure the county will understand if we're not ready on that specific day, but at least you'll have time prior to the meeting to talk about it if there are any outstanding issues.
That is all from the county at this point.
All right, thank you. See no old business, and see no informational items that is staff.
Just some updates on past projects, Valvoline, which the planning commission reviewed quite some time ago. I got through stormwater management. And so we received those plans.
Is that the one in Gorsuch, right?
Gorsuch and 140, it's replacing the veterinary clinic. So the stormwater management approval, resubmissions, we're gonna finalize that signature set. So hopefully this year we'll see development happening.
A few of the last ones were very slow build projects. Let's just put it that way.
Several are running into some issues as well. Westminster Station Phase 2, it seems to be progressing fairly well. That's where the Sprouts Farmers Market is going to go. That's that CVS site. It's the second phase you guys approved. That strip center where Outback is, but in that space, Sprouts Farmers Market, which is a nice get for the city. Outside that, thank Price and Lindo. It was with that water and sewer master plan amendment. Issues with NDE and approving it because the wastewater element wasn't clear in the amendment. And then we finalized that language, and then there's further language that had to be added because there's no regulatory power for NDE today to approve the wastewater program. So we had to work with NDE, state's attorney's office, and county planning staff to come up with draft language that was acceptable to everybody, that the county moved forward and was acceptable.
That was for West, what was it?
No, this is just for the water and sewer master plan. This is the wastewater, yeah,
Paperwork.
yep, because MD has to approve the permits for the wastewater program, the reuse program, the pure water. So to have that authority, it has to also be referenced to the master plan.
Okay.
So we had to update it for that reason. Again, we're still working on regulatory power to give the NDE, because this is the first one in the state. So you can imagine this is no language today that directs NDE to review and approve these type of projects. That's being worked on. Sarah and Paul's has put together some legislation to move that forward. So looking good so far.
We also want to introduce Leanne. Can you say, I don't want to mess it? Chutney, who is new to our planning staff, so we're very excited to have her as a comprehensive planner.
Yeah, I didn't know she was part of the public, and that's something she wants to say.
Would you like to say anything? You're welcome.
How wonderful, Westminster. Staff is great. But the great news is this, we have a full staff now. So with Melissa Thorne, the economic development coordinator, Andrea, and now Leanne, I have full staff for the first time since I've gotten here. So it's very exciting.
Well, for the course in these last 3 years, for everybody. You're one of the lucky ones that have full staff.
Yeah. Took a while, very pleased now, so see good things happening for the department.
Are there any commission members have any comments? Okay. I mean, it would be nice on every third Thursday that we do. I guess they're allowed to use the space anytime they want.
I'm assuming, I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah.
Maybe an orange coat they can bring down a little.
I think it's squatters' rights. I think it's big first.
Yeah, I believe that might be the
I
case.
don't think there's any agreement that I'm aware of.
We can just go over and use it.
I think it's,
Maybe we should send them the schedule of commissions, so they know whether we have one. Yeah.
Are there any meetings happening at Main Street now, or with the council or anything? Or
No, we had a budget meeting, it is still in the budget to put a dais there, that still needs to be designed and built in place, but the end goal is that we will have something there that will have meetings at 45 West. At some point, and be remiss not to welcome Mr. Bayer to the planning commission, who's recently appointed by the Mayor and Common Council. I think most people are familiar with it.
it's like deja vu.
It's like punishment. You gotta, it's gotta come back.
Sitting in that chair. Kind of like a. I said on the other side of the table.
There's a secret agent to you know, how things are going.
It's not a secret, you know.
All right,
But thank you.
well, there's nothing else.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.